My name is Sandra Chehab. I'm a partner alliance manager. Once again, I want to thank GPL for an amazing event. So I cover the Quadro VCA. So for those of you that are doing rendering with applications from Autodesk, so 3ds Max and Maya, this is our 3D render solution. All right. So this is the visual computing appliance. It actually came out in November. It has the latest, greatest Quadro boards. It's 8 of the M6000s, along with some of our proprietary software that we add on, along with the iRay for rendering, and we work with V-Ray RT as well. It is an absolute turnkey appliance, but there are some services that GPL can offer you as well. And it does scale and network. It has InfiniBand to basically scale up, and then uses 1 gig or 10 gig for within your user network. There's 8 of the M6000s. It's up to 23,040 CPU cores, up to 12 gigs of memory per GPU. Basically, you would connect to the Quadro, the VCA. And it is one user for the entire VCA. So you do your work on your workstation, and then you would render up to the VCA. And as I mentioned, you can scale up to 16. We have some amazing benchmarks, which I'm happy to share with you guys afterwards. But just to kind of give you a quick reference, we've done some things with Renault, where it took a day and a half that we rendered down to 0.7 seconds, so less than a second. So some very impressive numbers that we'd love to share with you guys as well. It is Linux based. It does come with iRay, as I mentioned. It does work with V-Ray RT as well. And the list price on that is $50,000. So if we look in the 4 key areas with lighting, design, quality, and styling, as I mentioned, we work very closely in the manufacturing, and it's all aspects of manufacturing as well. Obviously, auto is a huge component of that. But you can see within the iRay, it really creates a near real-time or real-time rendering experience. And so it really helps bring things to light that much quicker, especially within the design spectrum. So we have 2 images here. The one on the left, there's a rendered and a real image. I don't know if you guys can really tell which is which. It's a little bit hard maybe on the big screen. But the one on the left actually is the real image, and the one on the right is the rendered image. But I mean, it's very, very kind of difficult to tell. But for those that work in design, lighting, and what have you on a regular basis, probably can see a little bit more easy. Next up, I'd like to introduce Steve Harpster, and Steve is our solution architect. He works in the North America, Latin America region as well.
Thank you. So how many of you work 100% in the office today? Raise your hands. How many of you work in the house today 100%? And how many of you guys that work in the office would like to work in the house? Raise your hands. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is a technology that's going to allow you to be able to work really from anywhere. And it's a new product that NVIDIA came out with a couple of years ago. And I mean, virtualization and remoting has been around for a few years. Some of you may know Citrix, some of you may know VMware. It allows you access into a virtual machine, and you can run your applications pretty much anywhere. What was missing from the whole equation was the ability to run very high-end graphical 3D applications. You couldn't run your Maya. You couldn't run your Autodesk. You couldn't run your SolidWorks or your CAD systems from a virtual machine. And so what NVIDIA has been able to do now is partner with people like Citrix, like VMware, and like Microsoft to be able to allow you to run these very high-end, intense graphical applications now in virtual machines and in remote devices. So the name of the technology is NVIDIA Grid. It delivers accelerated virtual desktops and applications really on any device, even on your phones, your tablets, and your light thin clients that you may have. So what we're going to talk about today is our sister or companion set of cards that you guys may know from gaming. is something called Quadro. And Quadro are add-in cards like the gaming cards, but they're optimized for professional applications. And they've been around for a long time. Typically, you would put them in a workstation, put an engineer or a designer in their workstation and be able to run these apps. Now, what's different is we've taken the Quadro cards that are optimized for these graphical professional applications, and we're putting them in the data center. So we're putting inside of servers and we're virtualizing them out. So some of the key components that you see there: architectural engineering, construction, media and entertainment, education. USC, just up the road here a little bit, is converting all of their engineering laboratories now to virtual machines. So when you send Sally or Johnny off to college with that piece of you-know-what laptop that's been in the family forever, they're actually going to be able to connect in and run these high-end graphical applications on that old POC laptop that you've given them. Why do people want to do this? Why do you want to virtualize instead of using just a regular workstation on your desk? So one is the ability to be mobile, like we talked about earlier, where anybody that may have to work on a project at work after hours can now log in from home and be able to continue working on that. So mobility. Secondly, IT guys. Are there any IT guys in here? I'm sure there's a few of you guys, right? There you are, back there. They like the simplicity, because imagine now you have one image of your operating system, whether it's Windows or Linux, and if you need to make a change to a driver or update a patch or whatever it may be, you do it on your golden image, you roll it out to all those virtual machines, and all 100 desktops are done on the same server at the same time. So simplicity is another reason. And secondly, is IP, intellectual property, stays secure. It's in the data center now. It's not like I can come in with a USB drive and copy files and then go sell it to whoever, a third party, and I've lost my intellectual property there. So your IP stays secure as well. Some of the people that are using this, you'll probably recognize a few of the names on there. And I think we've got coverage on most all of the markets that we were talking about earlier. Now, how does it work? And this goes back to your question here. So you take a server, you put some GPU cards in the server, you spin on a hypervisor. That can be VMware ESX, that can be Zen Server from Citrix, and you put a very small piece of code on top of that hypervisor from NVIDIA. It comes in the form of a VIB driver for VMware. It's an RPM file if you're familiar with Linux for Zen Server. What that does is that little piece of code that we put on top of the hypervisor now allows those GPUs to be available and seen for use in virtual machines. So you create your virtual machine image, you roll out your virtual machines, and there's only one other little component, two components that has to go on the VMs at that point. One is an NVIDIA driver, so you're getting the goodness of the NVIDIA driver that's been optimized for these applications. And secondly, going back to this gentleman's question, you do have to have what we call a virtual desktop agent on the VM. That makes that VM available to be connected in from a remote device over the internet, and at that point you can stream that session across the internet back to wherever you're connecting in from. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got two new cards we just came out with. One's called an M60. This card is a single by 16 PCIe slot-based card. It has two graphics processors on it, each with 8 gigabytes of graphics memory. You can see if you're doing encoding, you can get 36 streams on that particular card. I don't know if that's important to folks in this room or not. 32 users maximum per card, or you can dedicate the entire card to a single user if you want. Secondly, we've got a blade solution we've just come out with. This is much like the form factor that goes in your laptops and notebooks, but it's going to be in a blade server. HP, Dell, IBM, Lenovo, they're all going to come out with blade servers if you're interested in that as well. You want to find out more, you can actually test drive this. Go to the top link, nvidia.com/trigrid, sign up. You get 24 hours on a virtual machine. You can connect in from your own device if you want to try that. Other resources are shown here. And how'd I do? All right. Thank you.